Hey, I need you to be honest with yourself because what I'm about to tell you might make you uncomfortable. You think you understand women, right? You think you know what she's feeling, what she wants, or why she's distant sometimes. But here's the problem: most of you don't even scratch the surface, not even close. There's a part of her life you'll never see if you keep scrolling, texting, or trying to figure her out the easy way. She carries thoughts every single day that you don't even imagine. Thoughts that tear at her self worth, that make her question herself when she looks in the mirror, that make her wonder if she's too much or worse, not enough. Now, here's the controversial truth: the woman smiling in front of you, the one laughing at your jokes, the one replying to your messages without complaint, she might be broken and not just a little hurt. I'm talking about deep, invisible cracks in her confidence, in her emotional security, in her ability to trust you or anyone. And these cracks, they're not always visible. You might think she's fine. You might think everything is normal. But the reality is, every day she's running mental loops, overthinking everything you say, replaying every interaction, and constantly asking herself, do I matter? Am I worthy? Will I be abandoned? Here's the kicker: most men don't notice. Some of you even make it worse without realizing it. You brush past the signs, you joke too much, or you ignore the subtle cries for connection because it's inconvenient, because it's easier to just move on, Nikai. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Today, I want you to understand her daily thoughts, the ones she doesn't tell anyone, the ones that shape her behavior and her emotions. If you listen closely, you might start seeing patterns that change how you communicate, how you act, and how you understand her reality. By the end of this video, you're not just going to know more. You're going to start questioning how much of what you think you understand about women is real. And trust me, some of it, it's going to hurt a little. But that's the point, because understanding is the first step to not being the guy who accidentally pushes her further into that broken loop. 1. Why she hides behind a smile. All right, let's get real for a second. You see her smiling, you see her laughing, you see her looking like she has it all together, and your first thought might be, she's fine. Everything's good. But here's the uncomfortable truth: what you see is only the surface. Beneath that smile, there's a storm she's been keeping bottled up for years. A broken woman doesn't wear her pain on her sleeve because society has trained her not to. She's learned early that vulnerability gets punished, that tears are inconvenient for everyone else, and that showing weakness is a risk she can't afford. Now, you might ask, so why even smile? Why not just be real? Here's the psychological kicker: smiling is her armor. Research in behavioral psychology shows that women often mask emotional pain to protect themselves from judgment and to maintain social harmony. That smile isn't fake, it's a survival mechanism. She's learned that her raw emotions are not always safe to share. And here's where it gets tricky for you. You may think she's approachable, easygoing, maybe even happy with life. But every laugh, every casual comment, every confident gesture could be carefully calculated to hide the cracks she's terrified to reveal. Think about this. How often does she ask herself if she's enough? How often does she worry that revealing her struggles will make her too much or weak in your eyes? She hides because every time she shows the real her, there's a chance she won't get the understanding she craves. And most men, they overlook it. They see the mask, they see the smile, and they assume it's genuine happiness. But in reality, she's walking around with an emotional debt she can't pay off, carrying shame, guilt, and fear like invisible baggage. Here's a controversial truth you need to hear: some of you are unknowingly feeding her need to hide. When you joke about feelings, when you dismiss her anxiety, when you fail to notice her subtle signs of distress, you reinforce the idea that she must smile, pretend, and protect herself, because if she doesn't, she risks being rejected. Every small interaction counts. Every ignored cue strengthens the walls she's built around herself. But here's the part most men don't realize. That smile, it's also a test. She's watching how you respond, whether you can handle even a glimpse of her vulnerability, whether you'll respect the parts of her that are broken. And if you fail, if you make it about yourself, if you laugh at her insecurity, if you walk away, she tightens the armor. That's how patterns form. That's why a broken woman doesn't just open up casually. She's learned to survive. And survival often means hiding behind a smile, even if it's killing her inside. So the question for you isn't, why does she hide? The question is, are you paying attention? Are you noticing the cracks behind the surface? Can you see what most men completely miss? Because the moment you start seeing it, the moment you start understanding it, is the moment you stop being part of the problem and start being someone who could actually matter to her. Remember this, smiles can be shields, and a shield isn't weakness, it's a warning. 2, the constant fear of being unworthy. Let me ask you something straight. Have you ever noticed how even when she's surrounded by people, she can still feel completely alone? That's not drama. That's her internal world, constantly whispering, "Am I enough? Do I matter? Will anyone actually see me?" And here's the part most men miss. This isn't about attention or ego. It's a deeply rooted fear that she carries every single day. A fear of being unworthy. Now, you might think, she's fine. Everyone feels insecure sometimes, but you're underestimating it. For a broken woman, this isn't a fleeting thought, it's a constant mental loop, a quiet alarm that goes off at the smallest trigger. A delayed text, a tone of voice, a comment that feels even slightly critical. Research in social psychology shows that women with past emotional trauma, rejection, or chronic criticism develop heightened sensitivity to social signals. Their brains are wired to anticipate judgment, abandonment, or failure. That's why even small interactions can trigger the avalanche of self-doubt you might never see. Here's the controversial truth you need to understand. Most men are blind to this. You see her texting less, over-analyzing your words, or acting distant, and your first thought might be, she's playing games. Or, she's too complicated. But she's not playing games. She's surviving a mind that refuses to stop asking, am I worthy of love, attention, respect? Every compliment, every small gesture of care matters more than you imagine, because in her world, those small validations are lifelines. And let's be honest, some of you actively make this worse. A careless joke, a dismissive comment, a lack of consistency, even subtle criticism. These things don't just sting. They reinforce the story she's telling herself. I'm not enough. I'm not safe. I'm not lovable. Every single day, that story plays like a loop in her mind, quietly shaping her mood, her reactions, her trust, and yes, even her ability to feel comfortable with you. But here's what's even more eye-opening. She doesn't want your pity. She doesn't want someone trying to fix her. What she needs is awareness. She needs men who understand that beneath the smiles, beneath the laughs, beneath even the casual conversations, there's a constant fear she's carrying, a fear you might never trigger intentionally, but a fear that's always there. And if you want to actually connect with her, if you want to be someone who matters, your first job is to notice and to treat that fear with respect. Not judgment, not impatience, respect. Ask yourself this: how often do you reflect on the impact of your words, your tone, your consistency on the women around you? How often do you realize that a single careless comment could reinforce the very loops that keep her trapped in fear? Most men never do. Most men never stop to see that. Behind the confident exterior, the small smiles, and the polite engagement, there's a fragile mind quietly asking, am I worthy of love today? So here's the takeaway. As controversial as it is simple, if you want to understand women, start by understanding unworthiness. Start by seeing what most men ignore. The thoughts she hides, the fears she suppresses, the internal dialogue that never stops. Because until you see that, you're not really seeing her at all. 3, she questions every word you say. Have you ever noticed how she hesitates before replying to a simple question? Or how sometimes she reads your texts over and over before responding? That's not overthinking in the casual sense. That's a woman whose mind is running a continuous analysis of every word, every tone, every pause. She's asking herself questions you'll never hear. What did he really mean? Was that casual or critical? Is he upset with me? Did I do something wrong? And here's the truth you rarely consider. She does this because she's been burned before. She's been let down, ignored, or misunderstood, and now her brain is on constant alert. Why does she question everything? Because trust is fragile. Because insecurity doesn't just disappear overnight. Because a broken woman has learned that people don't always say what they mean, and that intentions can be easily misread. Her mind is a radar, scanning every interaction for danger signals, for signs that she might not be valued or that her emotional safety is at risk. And while you might think this is exhausting or irrational, it's actually survival. Her brain is trying to protect her from disappointment before it even happens. Here's something even more subtle. She's testing you. Every pause, every double check, every internal question is her way of gauging if she can trust you, if she can feel safe enough to let her guard down. And when she notices inconsistencies, your tone, your words, your attention, she questions more because she knows that safety is earned, not given. Most men don't see this. Most men take it personally, or worse, they see it as manipulation. But it isn't manipulation. It's a reflection of past experiences and present caution. A woman who questions your words is not trying to trap you or control you. She's trying to survive the patterns of disappointment and betrayal she's lived through. She's trying to protect herself from the heartbreak she's already endured. Think about the weight of this for a moment. She's constantly running silent simulations in her mind, predicting outcomes, analyzing reactions, and guarding herself emotionally. Every word you speak, every tone you carry, every delay or misstep enters that mental loop. She's not just communicating with you, she's communicating with the memory of every past experience that's taught her to question and anticipate. And here's the loop you can't ignore. The more she questions, the more careful she becomes, the more distant she might appear, even if she wants closeness. It's a cycle that repeats silently, continuously, until trust is slowly rebuilt. And rebuilding trust isn't fast. It's not about grand gestures. It's about consistency, clarity, and awareness, things many men underestimate. So the real question for you isn't, why does she question me? The question is, are you aware of the mental weight behind her words? Are you showing her enough reliability and understanding to break the cycle? Because until you understand that, she will continue questioning, doubting, and analyzing every interaction, even when you think everything is fine. 4. The internal critic that never sleeps. Let's take a step back and look at what's really happening inside her mind. Most men think that once she's talking to you, smiling or laughing, everything is fine. But here's the uncomfortable truth. She has an internal critic that never sleeps. It's a voice that whispers, "You're not good enough. You shouldn't have said that. You're failing again." This voice doesn't take breaks. It doesn't care about your plans, your compliments, or your reassurances. It's relentless, and it shapes how she sees herself and how she reacts to the world, including you. Now, here's the part most men don't realize. This critic is fueled in part by the people around her. Every dismissive comment, every joke at her expense, every moment of inattentiveness you might think is harmless feeds it. Even small unconscious actions on your part can reinforce the story she tells herself every day. Men often underestimate their influence here. You might think, I didn't do anything wrong. But the reality? You're often part of the loop that keeps her critic alive because you're not actively noticing or challenging it. And here's the wake-up call. If you want to actually matter to her, you need to understand this critic, acknowledge it, and adjust your own behavior. Stop expecting her to be carefree or completely confident. Stop thinking that she should just get over it or lighten up. She's carrying a constant evaluation of herself, and if you dismiss it, mock it, or ignore it, you're complicit in feeding it. But here's the subtle beauty of awareness. If you recognize her internal critic, you can become a source of stability instead of chaos. You can speak, act, and respond in ways that don't trigger that voice unnecessarily. You can offer consistency, reassurance, and understanding without coddling, because what she needs isn't pity, it's reliability. And here's the hard part for men to swallow. You will never completely erase her critic. It will always exist, but your choices can determine whether it dominates her world or quietly takes a backseat. Ask yourself honestly, are you actively making an effort to see her struggles, or are you passively ignoring them? Are you showing up consistently or only when it's convenient? Because the truth is, the internal critic thrives on neglect as much as on criticism. And if you keep walking past the signs, dismissing the small moments, laughing at her overthinking, or expecting perfection from her while ignoring your own role, you're missing the point entirely. Here's the takeaway. Stop being part of the problem. Wake up. Your awareness, your respect, your consistency. These are the things that can give her room to breathe, even if just a little. The internal critic may never sleep, but you don't have to make it louder. Your role is simple yet powerful. See her, respect her, and be conscious of how your words and actions affect the voice she hears every day. 5. She's always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Let's talk about something most men never consider: the constant anticipation of disappointment. You know how she sometimes seems tense or distant, even when nothing has happened? That's her mind preparing for the worst. A broken woman lives with the expectation that the other shoe will drop at any moment. It's not paranoia. It's a survival mechanism honed by past experiences, heartbreak, and broken trust. Every time she opens up, every time she allows herself to feel safe, part of her is already bracing for betrayal, abandonment, or criticism. You might ask, but why does she assume the worst? Because she's learned that life is rarely fair and trust is earned, not freely given. Research in trauma and attachment theory shows that repeated emotional hurt can program the brain to anticipate danger even in neutral or safe situations. She's scanning the environment, analyzing behaviors, and calculating potential outcomes constantly. Her mind isn't lazy, it's vigilant, always asking, will this person disappoint me? Will I regret trusting again? Here's the controversial part that many men don't get. Sometimes you are the reason she's waiting. Your inconsistencies, your half-hearted attention, your occasional absence. These don't just annoy her, they validate the expectation she's been conditioned to carry. You might think small lapses don't matter, but to her, they are signals. Every delay in response, every change in tone, every sign of distance confirms the narrative that trust is fragile and disappointment inevitable. Now, don't misunderstand me. She doesn't want you to fix her past, and she doesn't need excuses for it. What she needs is consistency. What she needs is someone who understands that small gestures of reliability mean more than grand declarations. Every action you take can either calm the anticipation loop or intensify it. If you want to be someone who matters, you must recognize that your presence or absence is felt far more deeply than you imagine. Ask yourself this: are you unknowingly feeding her expectation of disappointment? Or are you showing up in ways that prove she can relax, even just a little? Most men fail to see that trust is cumulative. It's not one conversation, one date, or one compliment. It's the sum of every interaction over time. When you are consistent, reliable, and present, you slowly teach her that not every moment ends in hurt. You challenge the loop she's been living in, one action at a time. So here's the takeaway. Her vigilance isn't irrational, it's learned. Her caution isn't a game, it's protection. And the question for you isn't how to change her mind, it's how to change your approach. Because if you understand that she's always bracing for impact, you can consciously choose to be the calm in her storm. And if you do that consistently, you might just be the rare man who helps her believe, even for a moment, that the other shoe doesn't have to drop. If you can't see what's happening in her mind, you're part of the problem. You might think you're being kind, funny, or attentive, but if you're blind to her daily struggles, her internal loops, her constant fear of disappointment, you're failing without even knowing it. And that's uncomfortable, right? Because it forces you to reflect, forces you to question how much you actually understand women beyond the surface. But here's the controversial statement. Most broken women will never tell you what they think or feel, and most men will never notice unless they actually pay attention. That's reality. If you want to matter, if you want to be more than a passing presence, you need to wake up and see the invisible battles she's fighting every single day. Small actions, awareness, consistency, these are your tools. And your ignorance? It's not innocence, it's negligence. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below with your experiences. Times you realized a woman was hiding her pain, or moments you saw the cracks behind the smile. I read every comment, and I promise to reach out. This isn't just a video, it's a conversation, a chance to start seeing her world clearly. So speak up, share, and let's break the loop together.